The fourth and final free DLC for Art Online Alicization Lycoris, Ancient Apostles Chapter 4, The Blue-Eyed Demon, has finally arrived, featuring a story revolving around Kirito and Silica, with a little bit of nice screen time for Eldrie, as well as additions of spears as a weapon type, and Strea and Philia's arrivals as wayfarers. And of course, at the end of this video, I'll talk about whether it's a good time to return or not, since this is the final free DLC. It'll be timestamped, you can just skip to it if you want. But hey everyone, it's me Gamerturk, your best source of Art Online information. Like, subscribe, share, and all that YouTube stuff for even more in-depth SAO coverage. Much like the previous one, this review won't be a long one, you know the drill by now. This is the fourth and final free DLC chapter, and once again, the free DLC portion of it fits perfectly to the expectations that we had. An hour-long story focusing on Silica and Kirito, with a little bit of Eldrie screen time, slightly shorter than usual in terms of story, but I don't see that to be a problem at all. It is about what the story conveys rather than how much it gives you busy work to do. So again, the shortness of these final two free story updates, I think it's something to be praised rather than something to be criticized. The content of the DLC is the story, not the gameplay, and the story, it was quite nice, although I'm aware Silica is not necessarily everybody's favorite character out there, but still, it is great to see a good writer focus on her insecurities. And that's exactly what they did. Again, I don't have much to say at this point. I don't want to say it is formulaic at this point, but you know how they'll focus on a character and give them the moment to grow, and that's exactly what they do with Silica here, much like they have done in the previous DLCs with other characters. And Silica in this DLC has been the second person so far in the entire SAO gameverse to showcase a strong enough incarnation to give her a temporary outfit change. It's a big moment for those who know about the details of incarnation that can be easily overlooked by plenty of other people. Just like the Silica DLC, Silica DLC also is quite casual friendly, with the only exception being that with another 10 level jump you are looking at a level 90 boss, so I would imagine if you never bothered with getting better weapons or leveling up, at this point that's gonna start catching up. You will certainly need to level up a bit for this one over here, but if you dual wield two Skyrans, you're fine, you'll breeze through. Level cap is now 100, but for story content, you don't need to hit the cap. It will be manageable as long as you are within the level 90 ballpark. Now, if you are someone who does grind in the game and hangs around between the DLCs even when there's no new stuff, great news for you in this DLC! The raid bosses received another level bump as well as a new max level mechanic. If you didn't know, every time you defeat the DLC raid boss after their story, they level up by 1 and incrementally give you better drops with higher stats and abilities, and the max level of the raid bosses drops the weapon of its respective DLC as an enhanceable weapon instead, so you can get them even more powerful. Now, two major additions slash improvements with this final free DLC to the way the raid bosses work. First off, previously after you killed a raid boss, you had an hour-long cooldown to attempt the next level. This cooldown has been completely removed, so you can just roll through a single raid back to back to get it up to max level. They are usually quite good to level up as well to get that 10 level increment that was increased, as you know, the breakable parts of the enemies, they do give you a large amount of XP as you break them. Secondly, the bosses themselves now scale to level 199, but they do not even stop there. When you defeat a level 199 boss, they will transform into a level 200 supreme boss instead, with a slightly different design. Nothing game-changing here really, but certainly a neat addition. According to what was said, Reaper got its supreme version already, whereas Gleam is going to get it in the future, while nothing has been said specifically about the Knight or Ilfang, and I cannot be bothered to grind them to 200 to check it out. I am not one of those hardcore players. I'll probably check it out in one of my Lycoris live streams in multiplayer, so shameless plug there, I guess. I do stream stuff on my channel. Subscribe and hit the bell icon and join me on my stream so I feel less lonely. Thank you. Of course, new outfit and dagger for Silica only, increased the enhancement cap, etc. All the regular things you would expect from all the other DLCs as well. Now, while that was the contents of the Silica DLC specifically, there's a reason why this DLC took longer to arrive compared to others. And that is because the Silica DLC, the version 1.50 of the game, was bundled together with the contents of version 1.51, that was initially planned to come out later. And with that, we received some additional content within the Silica DLC as a result. First off, Strea and Philia have now joined the game as wayfarers. If you don't know how that happened, you need to watch the Alicization Lycoris original extra story, the visual novel drama that was included in the Japanese limited edition of Alicization Lycoris. Lucky for you, we just published our translation of the entire visual novel in English, so you can watch it by clicking the icon on the top right. But Strea and Philia's arrivals, they've been a massive dud. Back in Hollow Realization, we had a bunch of characters join up in DLCs. Rain and Seven were in the free Warriors of the Sky update, and then Yuju and Alice joined in DLC 3, if I'm not mistaken, on the top of my mind, I didn't check. All of which had their entire character affinity stories, 2D dialogue sprites, and bed scenes to go along at the end. Lycoris has none of that for Strea and Philia, at the moment at least. Now, to state things as they are, they do seem to have a plan for them for the future, as both character introductions were part of the same quest line, so it appears there will be a proper overarching story as more Gameverse heroines join in, and hopefully and eventually we'll get those character and bed scenes too. But for now, this introduction has been incredibly lackluster. And their quests, they didn't establish anything meaningful either, aside from, oh, it's an ongoing thing and will continue. So the overall planning just feels shaky altogether, which is sad. So yeah, basically don't rush getting their affinity up unless you want their traits. You won't be unlocking any additional character events or bed scenes at the moment. Aside from that, spears have been added, and I'm only going to show you preview footage. I did not bother testing them out, but the spear tree has some powerful passives like giving an 800% attack buff for your basic attacks, so I strongly recommend at least wielding a spear once to open up the skill tree, especially for low tier players. This is going to help a lot. Some are complaining that there are no spear characters that they can give additional spears to, which I don't understand. Would you have preferred getting a new weapon type a couple months later instead, just so you can give a spear to Seven when she arrives? We have a new weapon type. If you wanted a new weapon type, that's good. If you never intended to use a new weapon type, why are you complaining they exist now? I just can't make sense of some people. Alright, spears, they have been added to various loot pools like mythical beast material crafting, etc. Which sadly, I have to admit, is not very accessible to casual players in the first place. That is kind of a legitimate complaint, yeah. Aside from that, the adventure hub has been implemented, and as expected, it's just a time saver that has all the important things nearby and is pretty much it. A nice little quality of life addition, I'd say. There are a whole lot more details in the patch notes, which I'll add in the description so you can check, but yeah, that brings us to the final topic of I haven't played since I finished the main campaign. Should I return now? Well, first off, if you haven't played since you completed the main campaign, you probably are not aware that there is a true ending of the game that was so hard to achieve that only a single person managed to do it before they lowered the requirements. So I do recommend coming back either way and playing through that true ending of the game. But aside from that, you now have about 4 to 5 hours of nice character-driven stories to play through, not including the side material you can play now if you enjoy the gameplay. Like, we have 4 DLC raids in addition to the base game raids that you may not be aware of if you left all the way back there, all of which are now easier to tackle because you can level up to level 100 and won't feel a significant disadvantage when doing so. We have mutated beasts to upgrade weapons and armor further. That's kind of it in terms of meaningful content, I guess, but again, it is up to you. 4 to 5 hours of story alone, that is good enough of a promise to return to, even if you're not interested in the gameplay side of things. But in addition to that, another argument for returning is the first paid DLC. So Art Online Alicization Lycoris Myosotis is now on the horizon. It's gonna release sometime in 2021, and chances are its difficulty will be building up on these specific DLCs. So from that perspective, I strongly do recommend you complete these DLCs and at least reach the new level cap, even if you don't grind for the best weapons or upgrades, just so you'll be ready for the new content in Myosotis when it arrives. If you do not complete these 4 free DLCs, chances are the game may just require you to complete them first when Myosotis comes out anyways, but more importantly, you may simply have too much of a hard time when you come back then because of your low level. Somewhere down the line, I will be making a returning player's guide or something like that to get you up to speed, but until then, play the DLCs is good enough of a recommendation for you to take seriously. But yeah, that's been my impressions of Art Online Alicization Lycoris' 4th and final free DLC, Ancient Apostles Chapter 4, The Blue-Eyed Demon. Next stop, Myosotis, aka Blooming of Forget-Me-Not, so make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more in-depth Art Online coverage and news. Consider becoming a channel member to get access to a special badge and exclusive emotes to use. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook for faster news access. Art Online, the first day merch available on my Teespring page, and a huge thanks to all my patrons and channel members as usual. Until next time, keep your head